Hello, this is Jack Taylor, and welcome to Imagine Christmas Part 12. If you're still with us, you may be all in. And we're thankful today as we look at Boaz and Ruth. Now, love stories are intimately tied to the Christmas story. The thing with love stories is that you need to decide whether you are all in or not. The story of Joseph and Mary draws us into a beautiful relationship of those given the task of raising Jesus. In the story of Jacob and Rachel, we see that he worked for 7 years to earn Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then we had the story of Salmon and Rahab, who form a union and produce Boaz in a little village called Bethlehem. And maybe that name sounds familiar to you. There's one problem, and there always seems to be a problem, even in the Christmas story. The problem is that none of the pure-blooded Hebrews want to give their daughter to the son of a Canaanite prostitute and her spy husband. So let's back up a bit. Bethlehem means the house of bread. The village sits in a place where harvests are usually plentiful, but at the start of this story, there's a famine. There's no bread. A woman named Naomi and her husband Elimelech take their 2 sons to Moab so that they can survive. And the sons marry 2 Moabite women during the 10 years that they're there. But then Elimelech dies, the 2 sons die, and that leaves 3 widows behind: Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. Now, some of us get stuck in our losses. We've lost those we love. We've lost our family members, our homes, our places of belonging. And it's easy, even at Christmas, to focus on the emptiness, on the bitterness, the loneliness, the heartache. It's hard to be all in when you feel empty. At times like this, it feels impossible to believe that God could still be doing something good. Life is going on around us, but it doesn't feel like it's going on inside us. Keep your eyes open at times like that. You know, things change in Bethlehem. So Naomi heads back to Bethlehem. There's bread again, but only Ruth goes with her. And this is where we hear that famous passage from weddings, which say, "Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." In other words, I'm all in. Originally, that's a vow of a daughter-in-law to her mother-in-law. And I hope some of you have that good a relationship with your in-laws. Upon their arrival, Ruth goes to glean in a field, and gleaning is the way that social welfare happened in those days. God has always had a heart for the poor, so that they could preserve their dignity while having enough to feed their family. They could work. And at Christmas time, our society still remains generous to the poor, but the poor may be poor all year. In God's providence, Boaz is a relative of Naomi. He meets Ruth and he tells her to keep gleaning in his field. And he warns the men not to violate her in any way, and he instructs the harvesters to leave a little extra for her to pick up. Boaz says to Ruth, "I've been told all about you. May the Lord repay you for what you have done in caring for your mother-in-law. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you come to take refuge." You know, this is the key part of the Christmas story, that God is opening up the way for people from every tribe and tongue and nation to find refuge in him. And Ruth and Boaz are 2 examples. Well, when Ruth comes home with a generous food hamper, Naomi clicks with what is happening. She sets up an encounter for Ruth and Boaz. And at that encounter, Ruth, in the way of those days, asks Boaz to marry her. And Boaz responds brilliantly. He says, "The Lord bless you, my daughter." This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor, and now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All the people will know that you're a woman of noble character. Now, some of you may wonder if there's someone out there for you. Keep staying faithful to what God has given you to do and trust Him in the process. Don't rush into things from a sense of desperation. God understands the story He's weaving together. Through a long process, Ruth and Boaz come together in a union of celebration, and a son is born. And Naomi, who thought she'd been left to live her life as a bitter old woman, she now celebrates. The son is going to be raised as an heir to Naomi's husband and to his sons, so that Elimelech's name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Sons were important to look after the parents in their old age, to maintain the family inheritance, and to carry on the family name. God has a way to preserve His own. Well, this Christmas, in case you feel forgotten, there's a master weaver putting together a story you can't even imagine right now. Maybe He's checking to see if you're all in. Pay attention to the harvest right in front of you. And while you do, let's keep imagining Christmas together.